All right, 16.7, more graphing quadratic functions and applications. Okay, let's look at this. Consider the following quadratic equation: y equals x squared minus 8x plus 16. Find the vertex of the function. We're going to be going through a lot of stuff on this one, okay? Let's remember, okay, let's just take everything very intentional. Let's remember our quadratic equation that looks like negative b plus or minus, okay, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Let's also remember that when looking at this, we've got this part here that we learned about. That's going to be our discriminant here. Okay, I want you to focus though now on this part. Okay, remember we learned about that one. You could rewrite this as, and I'll rewrite in blue, just rewrite this as the vertex formula. Okay, as equals negative b all over 2 times a. When you take the b and the a and do all this, plug it into the formula, you're going to find the highest or the lowest point of a parabola. What do I mean by that? Well, you have a graph right here, okay, or let's do 2 graphs, okay, and let's draw one. You got a parabola that looks like this. Okay, here you've got a parabola that looks like that. Notice that both of them, let's switch to a different color again, just so we kind of keep it intentional. Both of them have kind of a lower point and an upper point. Okay, that's going to be your vertex. This one's going down, 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 down. Let's go back here. This one's going in a direction, a direction, a direction, a direction, and at some point it quits going down and starts going up. Here, this is going up, 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 and then it's going down, 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 down. Okay, this right here, okay, your parabola, your a value, okay, for this would be negative. So you'd have a negative a. Here, you would have a positive a value. Remember this a being the ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. This is the part we're looking at right there. We're going to be looking at that guy. So let's put it. This kind of helps you. It may not look it, but this right here, knowing which way the parabola is going to go is going to help you a lot in solving some of these and making some of this very, very quick. So, looking at this, let's look at our vertex and let's look at our formula here. And let's just find the vertex. Right now, we don't know what the graph looks like. Looking at it, though, knowing that this a value is just a 1 and it's positive, I can make a conjecture and say that I'm going to have a parabola that's going to look like a U. Okay, but what's my b value? Well, let's plug everything in. Let me get the pen out here. Okay, I've got an a b, and a c. Don't need the c for this part though. Well, my negative b is going to be negative, okay, negative 8, all divided by 2. Well, what's my a value? My a is just a 1. Okay, well, a negative and a negative make a positive. Okay, this is just going to be 2 times 1, so this is just going to be 8 divided by 2, which is going to give me a vertex, an x value. Okay, your vertex is your x. Okay, x equals, okay, vertex, let me put this up here. X equals the vertex, which equals this. Okay, well, now we just got to find what is the y value, because this is saying the vertex. Okay, vertex is an address. There's a coordinate here. It's not always just going to be like 0 or something like that. So we need to plug this back into the equation. So whenever I do that, I can do 4 squared minus 8 times 4 plus 16. When I do that, do all this math, I end up getting 0. Okay? So my line of symmetry, matter of fact, I'm going to make just a little bit more room here. Or not line of symmetry, I'm very sorry. Let's see if I can move this. There. We'll just erase some of that here. Okay, my final address, my coordinate point for this, okay, my x is 4, my y is 0, so the coordinate point here, the vertex of this function, the vertex equals 4, 0. Well, let's find the line of symmetry. The line of symmetry is the lowest point on this graph to where I could cut it in half. Okay, perfectly. Just cut this thing just perfectly in half. Well, notice if I just use this right here, that's going to be your x value. This right here is going to be your line of symmetry. Always, whatever value this is, that's your line of symmetry. So my line of symmetry here is x equals 4. Okay, now let's do our x-intercepts. Let me get a little bit more room here. Okay, x-intercepts. Now, this is where the quadratic equation is going to come in helpful. Okay, do you need to do it? It's really up to you. Okay, so let's look at this. We've got x squared. What is our deal again here? We've got x squared minus 8x x squared minus 8x, I think that's a plus 16. Okay, you can use any method you want when finding these x-intercepts. What I do want you to be cognizant of is look at this very carefully. I've got a perfect square there. I have a perfect square there. I have a perfect square trinomial. So this can literally be just turned straight into, you can factor it that way. But to stay in the practice of it, let's go ahead and use a quadratic equation. Watch what happens. Okay, we've got a 1 here. We've got our A. We got our B. We got our C. Once again, once I show you everything and kind of explain everything, it's going to make a lot more sense. So we've got our B. We've got our negative 8 plus or minus, okay, 4AC. We got B squared minus, not B squared, my bad, negative 8 squared. Okay, multiplied by 4 times 1 times 16. All over, okay, 2 times 1. Okay, watch what's going to happen here. I want you to really kind of pay attention to the discriminant right now. We've already kind of worked this part out just a little bit, but look, 8 squared is going to end up being, what, 64. Okay. Okay, so that's going to end up being a positive 64 here. Well, then 4 times 16. This right here is going to end up being a negative 64. Right here, underneath this square root, we're going to end up getting a 0. So this part right here is going to cancel out. Okay? Notice at that point, we're just left with our original vertex. Which means, okay, if that's going to be the case, our x-intercepts are going to just be 4, and then you can plug in that 4, plug it back into your equation, and you just get 0. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that out. The x-intercepts are going to be 4, 0. Let me write that out. 0. Be 4, 0. Now the awesome thing about this is also, let's look at it this way. Your y-intercepts, plug 0 in for your y-intercepts. Okay, your y-intercepts are going to be, well, everywhere that x is, okay, is going to be a 0. Okay, so your y-intercepts are going to be 0, comma, we'll plug in a 0 for x, and you've got 0 squared plus, or sorry, minus minus 8 times 0 plus 16. Well, that's all going to equal up to 16. So my y-intercept is 16. Okay? Because notice here, for your x-intercept, all your y's is 0. Your y-intercept, all your x's is 0. This is where this is going to be going across the x-axis. Where is it going to, the y-axis? Well, everywhere it crosses exactly at the y-axis, it's going to be 0 on that part. Everywhere it crosses here, okay, on the y-axis, okay, it's going to equal 0. Okay, so now let's plug in two values. Okay, this gets a little easier once you kind of start seeing the graph. Okay, like if you're graphing this as you do this, which you will on your assessment, makes it a lot easier. But whenever you're plugging in points, literally just put down an x and y, okay, and plug in points. So let's just plug in, how about 1 and 2? We can't plug in 0. We've already used those. Plug these back into the original equation. So on one of these, I'm going to have 1 squared minus 8 times 1 plus 16. So that's going to equal 9. So I'll put that right there. Then I can do 2. So I'm going to do 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 16. I get 4. Okay, so my two coordinate points are going to be 1, 9 and 2, 4. All right. Last thing. Let's kind of take this back up so you can see a little bit better. There we are. We have found a lot of information. Let's remember that we have a vertex, okay, of 4, 0. We have 2 points, okay, one at 1, 9, one at 2, 4. We also have a y-intercept at 16, but notice my graph doesn't go that far, so I'm not going to worry about this. So let's start graphing. Well, my vertex, I'll graph it first. I've got 4 zeros. So let's come over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4, 0. Now let's graph my other points. I've got 1, 9. Let's graph those in red. Got 1, come all the way up here to 9. And then I've got 2, 4. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I will say this. Whenever you're doing this on like your assessment, you're going to want to pick something on the other side of the vertex. But let me give you a little hint. Parabolas are always equal. So notice if this is going to be my line of symmetry right here, which we figured out what that was, I know that if I am 2 away here, I can put another dot here. Okay. Also here, notice I'm at 3 away. Well, here I can go 1, 2, 3. So y is going to equal 9. Okay. When x equals 1, y will equal 9. When x equals 7, y will equal 9. And vice versa. When x equals 2, we know that equals 4. But that also means that when x equals 6, okay, it equals 4. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. I know it's going to be, once you start seeing it, especially with a few more examples, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's do the final part of this, and that is literally just draw our parabola. I'll do the best I can on this part. It's kind of hard on a computer, but come up here. And that's exactly what your parabola will look like. After everything's all said and done, notice here we have our line of symmetry. We have our 2 points. We have our vertex, which on this one right here would be a minimum point. Okay, the lowest point it could ever be, because this thing's going down, 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 and then it'll go up, 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 or vice versa. It depends on which way you want your graph to go. So that's how that is done.